What's up, y'all? So you may have seen me introduce myself as a co-founder of Liquid Marketplace, but obviously it's not just me. So I'd love to take this opportunity to introduce you to the other founders and industry experts that are a part of this growing innovative platform. Because after all, I think our team is what solidifies us as one of the most dominant fractionalization co-ownership platforms. We have the most elusive, top tier, rarest assets in the world for the entire world to co-own. And we can't wait to grow this with you.
Logan Paul didn't just launch another project. He built a machine that turns hype into money and fans into damage control. Because this story isn't Crypto Zoo, it's something quieter, cleaner, and somehow even more calculated. A $5.3 million Pokémon card, a secret vault, a promise that you could co-own history. And then people tried to cash out and suddenly they couldn't. No updates, no answers, just silence. While the people at the top kept moving like nothing happened. But listen to this. The moment you realize what that co-ownership really meant, you're going to feel your stomach drop. Because if this is what it looks like from the outside, what do you think was happening behind the scenes? Alright, it starts with a flex so big people stopped asking questions. It starts with a flex so big it doesn't even feel real. Logan Paul buys one of the rarest Pokemon cards on Earth, the PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator. A card so mythical collectors talked about it like an urban legend. And he doesn't keep it private. He wears it, shows it off, makes it part of his identity. A world record type purchase. The kind of thing that screams, I'm not playing games. And that's exactly why it worked. Because when someone spends millions on a single card, your brain automatically assumes two things. One, he's serious. Two, he's legit. That card wasn't just cardboard anymore. It became proof. Proof that Logan was a real collector, a strategic investor, a guy who knows what he's doing. And then the pitch hit. Not a crypto coin, not some weird token, something that sounds almost wholesome. You don't have to be rich to own rare collectibles. You can own a piece of them, you can co-own history with me. And that's when people stopped thinking like skeptics and started thinking like fans, because it wasn't just about money. It was about being part of something. Something exclusive. Something once in a lifetime. But that card wasn't just a flex. It was the perfect setup. A shiny object. A trust magnet. A headline maker. And once everyone's eyes were locked on the prize, that's when the real business began. But that's not all, because the next step is where this turns from collecting into something that looks a lot like a trap. Liquid Marketplace didn't sound dangerous. That's why it worked. No wild promises of overnight riches, no obvious red flags, just a simple idea that felt smart. What if regular people could buy fractions of ultra rare collectibles? What if you didn't need millions, just a slice? Pokemon cards, Jordan jerseys, LeBron rookies, locked away in a secure vault, untouchable, protected. And here's the magic word they kept repeating: co-ownership. You weren't gambling, you weren't speculating, you were an owner. Buy a token, hold your share, vote with the community on what happens next, auction it, display it, hold it forever. It sounded clean, professional, almost responsible. Logan wasn't just promoting it either. He called himself a co-founder. That mattered because when someone with his audience says, I built this, people stop asking hard questions. And the pitch went even deeper. Own part of my card and you're a world record holder too. Think about that for a second. They weren't selling assets. They were selling identity, status, belonging. Collectors rushed in, fans followed, money poured through the door. And here's the scary part. Most people didn't even care about flipping for profit. They trusted the system. They trusted the vault. They trusted him. But buried beneath the hype under the clean UI and big words was one uncomfortable reality. The platform launched before it was ready. And the moment people tried to do the one thing that actually mattered, everything started breaking. And this is where the dream collapses. Because when users tried to touch their money, the platform showed its real face. The first complaints didn't sound dramatic, just small things, delays, because payouts weren't coming through. And it got worse. Basic features that were promised, they didn't even exist. Voting systems, ownership mechanics, core functions, they were being built after launch, after real money went in. That's when the excuses changed. Now it wasn't bugs, it was growth pains, early stage issues, normal startup stuff. But listen carefully. This wasn't some side project run by anonymous dev. This was a platform pushed by one of the biggest creators on Earth. And while users were stuck refreshing wallets, Logan went quiet. No big promotions, no hype posts, no urgency. Slowly his name disappeared from bios, from mention, from the spotlight. Just like that, the same pattern people thought they'd never see again. Money locked, silence above, chaos below. And just when users thought things couldn't get more uncomfortable, the platform announced something huge, something historic, something that was supposed to save everything, because what they did next involved involved the most expensive Pokémon card in the world. And this is where it gets crazy. This was the move that changed everything. Liquid Marketplace needed a win. Trust was cracking. Users were nervous. Money was stuck. So they pulled out the biggest weapon they had, Logan's crown jewel, the PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator. The same card he paid $5.3 million for. The same card he wore like a trophy. The same card that made headlines worldwide. They didn't just list it, they made it the centerpiece. Here was the pitch. For the first time ever, the public could co-own the most expensive Pokémon card in history. Not a small share. Not symbolic. 51%. The majority, meaning the community, not Logan, was now in control. Or at least that's what people were told. Buy tokens, own a piece, vote on its future, auction it someday, display it, hold history together, and people believed it. Money flooded in fast. Millions of dollars gone in days. Liquid Marketplace celebrated. History was made, community ownership achieved. On paper, it was perfect. The platform raised over $2.5 million. The community supposedly owned the card, and Logan still stood beside it all smiling. But here's the detail almost no one noticed. If the community truly owned 51%, then Logan no longer had final control. No solo decisions, no private deals, no sudden moves. Everything had to be voted on. Everything. And that's why what happened next felt impossible, because months later, people saw the card again. Not in the vault, not on the platform, but in a conversation about selling it, as if none of that ownership ever existed. And this is where the story goes from suspicious to undeniable, because the card was about to be sold and the owners never got a vote. This is where everything explodes, because one day people noticed something strange. The PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator was being discussed again, not as a shared asset, not as community owned, but as if it belonged to one person, Logan. No vote was announced, no poll, no notification. The very thing Liquid Marketplace promised. Community control never happened, and then it got worse. Logan appeared talking about selling the card, negotiating, discussing price, acting like full ownership never left his hands. Think about that. Millions of dollars were raised on the idea that the community owned the majority. But now the card was moving without the community's permission, without their input, without their approval. People who thought they owned part of history realized they had zero say. No emergency update, no clear explanation, just silence and confusion. And when users started asking questions, the answers didn't come from Logan. They came from moderators, from devs, from vague statements. That's when panic set in. Because if the card could be sold without a vote, what did ownership even mean? What did those tokens actually represent? And here's the chilling part. This wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a mistake. It was happening in plain sight. And only after the backlash grew too loud did Logan finally speak. But the way he explained it changed everything, because his next statement didn't clarify the situation. It rewrote it, and the language he used raised a terrifying question. Logan finally spoke, not in a video, not in a long explanation, a statement, and every single word was careful. He said the PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator was previously listed on Liquid Marketplace, where users purchased tokens that, according to the company, represented fractional ownership. Read that again. According to the company, not according to me, not according to what I promised, not according to what you believed, according to the company. Then came the bombshell. Logan said he had repurchased the card months earlier, quietly, privately. He claimed he paid a substantial buyout that was supposed to be distributed to token holders, supposed to be no price disclosed, no proof shown, no confirmation from users. And that's when people realized something terrifying. The card was never really theirs, because if Logan could just buy it back whenever he wanted without a vote, without permission, then the 51% ownership meant nothing. And he didn't stop there. He said he was informed the funds had already been distributed. But users were still waiting, still locked out, still unpaid, some for over a year. And here's the most disturbing part. He spoke like an outsider, like someone with no control, no insight, no responsibility. As if he wasn't a co-founder, as if he wasn't the face, as if his name wasn't the reason people trusted the platform. The same pattern again. Hype, distance, denial. And just when people thought this couldn't possibly get worse, regulators started paying attention. Because once authorities stepped in, the story stopped being internet drama and started looking like something much darker. Step back for a second. Look at the full picture. A massive hype launch, a trusted face, a complicated system nobody fully understands. Fans buy in, money flows, then silence, then distance, then language gets careful. According to the company, operational issues, working on it, and somehow the people at the top walk away clean while regular users wait, refresh dashboards, and wonder where their money went. This wasn't just about Pokemon cards. It wasn't even about crypto. It was about trust. Trust turned into tokens. Tokens turned into promises. And promises quietly dissolved into fine print. And here's the question nobody can ignore anymore. How many times does this have to happen before people stop calling it bad luck and start calling it a pattern? Because if the same story keeps repeating with different names, different platforms, and the same outcome, at what point does coincidence disappear? If you made it this far, you already know why this matters. So tell me in the comments, do you think this was incompetence or something much worse? And if you don't want to miss the next story that everyone else is afraid to break, subscribe because the next one, it gets even crazier.